couple people jump in the middle of it. So I spent a lot of time today bouncing ideas off G36 and the regulations group, and as well as Sean in putting together the FAQs. So if you're not in it, jump in it. We're going to kind of discuss these. I'm going to try and update it live as we kind of discuss these things. But the general premise of this, guys, was to really keep it as simple as possible. So we basically came up with a question and answer format. So what are some of the most common questions that we would get in response to some of the regulations, and not just regulations, but FPV in general. So I tried to kind of keep it, I guess not to the lowest common denominator, but to where it's easily understood. So I'll kind of explain some of that as I go through. But really what we want to do, guys, is go through each one. And if, something's inaccurate or if something needs changing, then let's discuss that and we'll go from there. So first up is going to be what's the difference between a UAS and a SUAS? And basically what I put was the difference between the two terms comes down to weight. A UAS is considered to be an unmanned aerial vehicle that weighs more than 55 pounds, including any cargo. An SUAS is considered to be an unmanned aerial vehicle that weighs less than 55 pounds, including any cargo. Any issues with that one?
That one seems pretty straightforward. Now,
right.
is there any significance to the order that you have?
Not just yet. I tried to get somewhat creates kind of continuity among them all, but there still needs to be some editing and moving stuff around and whatnot, so everything kind of flows together the right way.
Okay, because I was when I reviewed it earlier, I was thinking, I think the order should be essentially what's top of mind. Like, I think the second one should probably be the first one, and essentially, is it legal? I would think that would be the first question most people would have.
You don't see a need for categories here, do you?
I'm not sure. But anyhow, and I'm sorry, I don't want to get into specifics on the questions just yet. I was just talking to the principle of the order, and maybe we should go through it and circle back around to that. I just wanted to mention it while I was thinking of it.
I think he actually had that question as the top one when we first started editing.
I did. All right. So number 2, do these regulations apply to just drones? And I'm doing air quotes with drones. Answer: no. Congress has defined all model aircraft as UAS and SUAS. These are defined as an aircraft without a human pilot on board that is capable of sustained flight. This means that all fixed wing and rotorcraft model aircraft fall within this category, regardless of configuration, whether powered or unpowered.
How do you feel about the inclusion of autonomous and remotely controlled?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Totally. Well, it needs to be identified, because autonomous means that the electronics are making decision. Remote control means that the human is making decision.
Correct, and I think their definition is both of them fall under this. So that's what I'm saying, is that we should specify, we're specifying both.
Well, yeah, we need to put. Sorry, not to cut you off, but maybe like a sub. To how do they do it? Like, if this like a lead, like it'd be like, this would be like 1A, this like 1A BB or whatever. You know what I mean? Then we could sub break it down, but this is like generalization. You know what I'm saying? No, like the tree down more after the.
Well, what you're saying is, should we pull out defining what a drone is, right? Because it's kind of nested in here.
I mean, a drone is an unmanned, anything that's unmanned, and I guess a fly. You know what I mean? I guess a fly is a drone because it's an unmanned flying object now. So I guess flies and bees are drones. birds, whatever, you know what I mean. But the only thing I think that we're really particularly caring about is the separation between commercial and recreation.
So here's what I did on the end of it. So just read the last sentence. This means that all fixed-wing and rotorcraft model aircraft fall within this category, regardless of configuration, whether powered or unpowered, autonomous or remote piloted. Does that sound a little better?
Yeah, it's more. What I'm thinking is it may answer that question. If people are wondering if there's a differentiation between the two, FAA doesn't make that distinction.
Right. All right. Any other comments on number 2 before we move on? All right. Number 3, pretty simple. Is flying first-person view legal? Answer, yes, under the new regulations, as long as you have a spotter that has visual line of sight of your model, you can legally fly FPV. Doesn't really get much more straightforward than that.
So that should be on the top then, right? We're thinking that one should be the number 1.
Yeah, that's what I was recommending earlier. But I actually had something else. Yeah, and I guess it is pretty straightforward. I was going to bring up the issue about potential FCC concerns. But you can buy an FCC legal video transmitter. It's just most people don't have them.
I've heard they were not very good.
It's limited channels.
Well, that actually brings up another question that we can add to the the FAQ is stuff about being the FCC being ham licensed and whatnot. So we can add those in after we're done here.
I think what they're probably that the number one way that they can control us, if they had anybody come sit at a race and find out, is to put their feet on our milliwatts. If they step us down to 200, that's line of sight.
The generation of these questions and answers, as is on this piece of paper, have been coming from only the interpretations of HR 302 as is. But if we have more holistic questions or questions around the FCC or any other things that we could add to this later, then we need to put them at the bottom and get them answered.
Yep, I'm adding them down to the bottom under a notes section so we can get those knocked out.
That's a good point.
The regulations team is just, highly focused on just the FAA regulations only.
Okay, so added down at the bottom, we can look at the FCC aspect of it, the ham license and that kind of stuff. We can get that in there pretty quick. That's not hard. All right, number 4. Does looking at a screen, i.e. not using goggles, to fly FPV count as FPV or line of sight? It can be either depending on the situation. It's considered line of sight when the operator has an unobstructed view of the aircraft. It's considered FPV when the operator cannot physically see the model and flies only by the screen. Any concerns?
Seems straightforward to me.
All right. Number 5. Where will I be able to fly? Technically speaking, you can fly anywhere as long as you're within Class G airspace and below 400 feet above ground level. Flying in any other class of airspace or above 400 feet will require the pilot to submit for authorization and require that you follow all airspace restrictions present in those areas.
And forgive me if I missed it or forgot about it, or is there a question on what is Class G airspace?
Absolutely. That's the very next question.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Thanks.
All right. So next question. What is Class G airspace? Class G airspace is defined as the area not classified as any other class of airspace. Generally, it starts at ground level and extends up to 700 feet above ground level. In some areas, this can extend to 1,200 feet. This is also an effect for areas of elevation, such as the mountains, where ground level is the elevation at which the aircraft is currently occupying.
Is that last sentence clear to everybody? Anybody confused by that?
No, say it one more time.
This is also an effect for areas of elevation, such as in the mountains, where ground level is the elevation at which the aircraft is currently occupying.
So it's just saying the ground level's where the ground is. Right?
Basically, yeah.
Could we say it better? Could we wordsmith so that
Yeah,
it's not
it might.
confusing?
It might be a little confusing.
All right. So, any ideas on how that could be better worded?
Well, I guess what's the because I think it's confusing because you bring up other elevations. I think I was just assuming ground was always ground level
just maybe
until you say it.
distinguish between ground level and sea level. I mean, ground
In
level.
aviation, ground level is
different.
considered off that of the roof of the trees as well.
Okay, so how about let's take Chad's idea. You know, we assuming ground is ground, and all I would put, this is also the case in areas of elevation, full stop right there.
Is this sentence even needed in with the question 10?
It may be a little extra.
It looks, I'm looking down a little bit on question 10, and it looks like that one may include the same information.
Okay, we can pull this out then. All right, done. All right, question 7. Can I fly beyond visual line of sight? Answer, no, there is currently no provision within the regulations to fly beyond visual line of sight. Pretty straightforward.
Do we maybe want to include anything about the fact that there is a path here, you know, long term, that we can see, and we've confirmed with the commercial lobbyists that there is a path here for exemptions to eventually allow it?
That might confuse it a little bit.
Because it is kind of speculation. It's not like written in stone. It's all just like, will it be accepted or not? And it's most likely commercial use only anyway. So
I think that we, you know, as much as we can, we just stick to the facts that we know and kind of avoid speculation.
Or do you mean something like for now or currently?
Exactly.
Then,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would be fine with currently. I think that's factual.
Yeah, it's actually there. It says, no, currently there is no provision within the regulations to fly beyond visual line of sight.
See, but the path, though, that has been paved by the other lobbyists is really built up of multiple exceptions. So provision, it's never really going to be like a provision, right? But there is a path there. I don't know how you would say it, you know, but everybody knows about it. It's pretty much well confirmed already.
Let's see. Trying to think how to kind of word that.
Allowance, maybe?
There you go. Currently, there is no allowance within the regulations to fly beyond visual line of sight.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. It's like a foreshadowing.
There you go. All right, number 8. Is there any situation in which I can fly my model above 400 feet? Answer, there's no current aircraft configuration, setup, power system, or lack thereof that will allow you to fly legally above 400 feet above ground level without authorization. All right, I'll take the silence as good.
As a rec pilot, or is currently that authorization only able to be sought by a 107?
No, that authorization, you can apply for authorization. You'd have to contact the air traffic controller directly to do so. From what I understand, even using the LANIC, which we'll get here shortly.
I did see that.
They can't approve anything above 400 feet via the LANIC. So. All right. How do I apply for authorization to fly in airspace other than Class G? If your area is equipped with LANIC, then you would apply through a smartphone app such as AirMap. They're only able to approve flights up to 400 feet above ground level. If your area is not equipped with the Atlantic system or you wish to fly beyond 400 feet above ground level, then you will need to call the air traffic controller in your area for authorization. To see what areas are currently equipped with Atlantic, as well as the estimated date of addition, go to the FAA website. There's a link there for it. And the cool thing with that link, I don't know if any of you have seen that, it shows the wave rollout of the Atlantic system. And it shows specific airports that have it already, as well as the ones shortly to come.
What does LANIC stand for? Do we have it spelled out anywhere in this?
Absolutely. It's 2 questions below. All right. This is a point at which I kind of need to move stuff around. But number 10, how is 400 feet above ground level determined? Generally, you can consider the point at which you take off if you're on the surface of the Earth as 0 feet above ground level. However, as the craft moves across terrain to an area that is lower in elevation than the area you took off from, you will need to decrease the altitude of the aircraft to compensate and stay within the legal limits. That one I don't know, is that one confusing to anybody?
I thought that one was actually written very well.
Okay. All right, number 11. What is LANIC? How does it benefit me? LANIC is the low altitude authorization and notification capability, a collaboration between the FAA and the industry. It supports UAS integration into the airspace. It provides access to controlled airspace through near real-time processing of airspace authorizations below approved altitudes in controlled airspace. This allows you to apply for approval for flights through an app with near instant response times.
Okay,
so,
2 things.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So in the question, how does it benefit me as a slant? I would just say, what is it?
Okay.
Then the other, I would start with the last sentence.
Okay.
Because you say plainly what it is and then go into the more description.
You got it. Done. All right, number 12. When do I need to change what I'm doing or seek a new license? Answer. And this one will update over time. According to the FAA, they are evaluating the impacts of this change in the law and how implementation will proceed. They are recommending that current policies and guidelines are adhered to until then. So no information I found through all my research says when anything's going to take effect. We do know there are dates in the bill of when they're supposed to be decided, but we know government, so.
I don't know. I just don't like the way that they are recommending that current policies are adhered to until then. It kind of seems like a threat in a way or whatever.
Do we have that verified? Is that in writing anywhere?
That is from I pulled that information.
That's direct script. That's black and white.
I pulled that from the what is it? The AMA response to the bill.
Maybe could we tend to that sentence maybe just so it doesn't look.
Well, they in this case would be more correctly the AMA, and do we want to include it?
Can you read it one more time?
Absolutely. According to the FAA, they are evaluating. According to the FAA, they are evaluating the impacts of this change in the law and how implementation will proceed. I can say the FAA are recommending that current policies and guidelines are adhered to until then.
So wait, who's the they that's evaluating? The FAA?
The FAA.
Right. Okay.
So let me kind of shift this around. So let's see. The FAA is evaluating the impacts of this change. Okay, so how about this? The FAA is evaluating the impacts of this change in the law and how implementation will receive. They recommend that current policies and guidelines are adhered to until then.
As long as we can back it up, I'm good.
Is there any way you can put in the timeline on how long they are supposed to have?
Well, here's the deal: is that each different little part of it has a different timeline. So, for example, to be recognized for the stipulations to be recognized as a CBO, that's 180 days. There are some that stretch out to almost 3/4 of a year. There are some that are 60 days. So it's kind of hard to pick a day.
As far as like the licensing by itself, they have that long to do it. I'm sorry, certain parts.
I believe they have 180 days for the test to come up with the test. I'd have to double check my facts on that one though.
All right, I just think that'd be good to have in there. You know what I mean? Just
Okay.
So that way there's some kind of like a timeline for the test and what we know.
Hey, so cool, Joe. I see 2 tasks there. One is identify the things that need to have timelines followed, and then find all the timelines. We could have the regulations interpretation team dig in on those tasks.
Absolutely. Okay. Number 13. In the future, will it cost me anything to get approved to fly recreationally? Answer: currently is required that you register yourself as a recreational pilot with the FAA, and I give the website. The cost is $5. Currently, we do not know what type of fees, if any, will be related to the pilot certification test.
I think I saw today on RC groups that the FAA is recommending that people stop registering. Is that true?
Okay, so I haven't seen that, but I haven't specifically looked for stopping registration. But I do know that registration is in the new bill. It doesn't specifically say you need to register, but it does say that your craft needs to be marked with your registration number. The other thing is that the registration is actually, I think I linked it in the chat the other day, but it's actually in a defense bill, completely different bill that's still currently active. So unless something has changed, it's still in effect.
Got it.
So at Rampage, there was some discussion about that. Is there registration per aircraft or per pilot? Where does it stand currently?
It's
Currently for recreational, it's per pilot. For 107, it is per aircraft.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see. Will I need insurance to fly recreational FPV? Answer: no, you will not need insurance to fly recreational FPV. However, from the perspective of risk mitigation, it's never a bad idea to have insurance in case of accidents. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's well put.
Will I need to join a CBO in order to fly recreational FPV legally in the USA? Currently, this is not necessary, but you will need to review and follow the safety guidelines of a CBO when out flying.
Not just read and review, but actually fly by or operate within those guidelines.
Well, I said review and follow the safety guidelines. So does that appease that, or do we need to change the wording?
Maybe take out review. It's more important that they follow them. It's if they follow them, they've obviously reviewed them.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Is there actually more than one CBO at this point, or are we all going under the same blanket?
CBOs. 0 recognized CBOs.
Oh, okay. I thought there were like 2 or 3 different groups trying to approach.
No, that's untrue. There's CBOs for parachute jumping, for ultralights, for just about all the other kinds of airspace users that have set up similar regulations in the past with their CBOs. Model aircraft specifically, there's none at this point.
What is CBO again?
It's a community-based organization.
That's question 26. We'll get to it.
Yeah. Again, I got to change some of the order here. All right. Will I be required to take a written test to fly recreational FPV? Once the test is developed, yes, you will be required to take and pass a test, as well as carry your certification with you when you are out flying. Law enforcement now has the right to ask for that certification along with your current registration as a drone pilot.
This would be a good place to drop a link to the public memo that went to law enforcement, giving them directions on exactly how to do that. That's public knowledge.
It would also be great if we could find the date of when they're supposed to have that test ready by and put it in there.
Okay.
I believe that was also 180 days after bill of signing.
I believe that's correct, but I will double check and get that in here.
I'm posting the URL to the law enforcement guidance for suspected unauthorized UAS operations issued 8/14/2018.
Okay. I will add that in. Are there age requirements to take the test? Unfortunately, at this time, the details about the test are not present. They have not developed the test nor its requirements yet. Will I be required to demonstrate pilot? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute. So did you say earlier that currently law enforcement can inquire about your certification?
Under the new regulation, yes.
But the test isn't available yet.
Correct, which is why we go back to that original one where we are currently flying under the old policies.
Okay.
I'm scanning through this document now, looking for the part where they have to ask you for that particular license. Because this document predates the bill, it most likely will not include it and will need to be updated. But this is what's in law enforcement's hands currently.
Do they have a guideline for what probable cause is to ask? Like, is it concrete? Because I haven't seen the literature on that, and it seems kind of like, okay, I'm going to ask this guy no matter what.
Well, it looks like we're going to need to decipher this document and possibly generate some questions from this as well then.
Okay. And I believe there, I'll have to dig into the 302, but there is some information in there on what they're trying to protect when they are coming up to you asking questions, or even more so, they can take your drone out of the air and whatnot. So
yeah, so if I'm a noob reading this, my next question is, what do I do if the law enforcement asks me for something that I can't get?
Then you pull this out where I have the 5 bullet points that they're supposed to ask you, and that's not there listed currently.
Okay, good.
So we could almost recommend they print this out and carry it with them until such time that it becomes untrue.
okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to put notes down at the bottom and then trying to jump back up. All right. Will I be required to demonstrate pilot competency to continue flying recreational FPV? No, as of the current language in the bill, there is no requirement to demonstrate pilot competency to fly recreationally. Do all these restrictions apply if my model is under 250 grams? Yes. All model aircraft have been grouped together under weighing less than 55 pounds. Currently, the FAA is only requiring registration if the model is between 0.55 pounds or 250 grams and 55 pounds or 25 kilograms. However, this may change in the future.
I just love that if you try to fly your tiny whoop outside, you have to follow all these rules.
I know, right?
Yes, you do.
Well, now one thing is that they have a restriction on craft that is under 250 grams, but then they have you have to take the test and follow all these rules and have registration of yourself as a pilot under, was it 349? but it doesn't say anything about the two. So under 250 grams, you just don't need to. If you have everything under 250 grams, you don't need to certify yourself as a pilot. You just have to follow the rules.
No, you do need to certify yourself as a pilot. You do not need to register yourself as a pilot. There's a difference. There's certification.
Yeah, I spoke wrong. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, you will need to take the test, but you do not, as of right now, you do not need to register. So if you're you just fly tiny whoops, or you fly 3 inchers that weigh under 250 grams, you do need to be certified, but you do not need to mark your aircraft.
It just seems like like number 13 and number 20 or number 19 are kind of like, they say two different things about the same topic. You know what I mean?
What was the two questions?
The other one was, in the future, will it cost me anything to get approved to fly FPV recreationally? And that says nothing about like weight restriction or lack of a weight restriction.
Okay.
So, and this might be on the list. I don't know, or I don't remember. If I buy a toy drone, do I have to either register or become certified? Or I buy my 8-year-old.
And that's what I'm saying. There's got to be a limit to where that's like throwing a paper airplane. Now you need to go get that registered. You know what I mean?
The registration, like the registration requirement is not in this bill. It's in, like Kojo says, it's in another bill that isn't passed yet. So it may may change. So we'll have to go back and follow that bill and look at the wording and how it's in there, or if it even is, because it looks, from my personal impression of HR 302, it looks like there's really no need for the registration if the licensing is coming into effect. So they may not even have a need for the registration. It might be a moot point in the future, but we should probably follow that bill to make sure that the Congress and everybody aren't ignorantly just passing registration when they don't realize there's a license over here.
Let me jump in, Sean. It's not currently. It actually is law. It was a defense bill from last year that the registration. So if you guys remember, we had the registration all roll out a couple years back, and then we had the court case that I forget the actual
Supreme Court where they tried to have it removed,
and they did remove it, and then they threw it into another defense bill and got it reauthorized. So. That defense bill is the one that currently where the registration sits, and it's literally plugged into the middle of nowhere in this bill, but it's there.
Oh, it's horseshit, dude. It was. I don't know why we didn't. I don't know. It does. We didn't have enough voice anyway.
Yeah, it was kind of, again, it was kind of backhanded thrown in there. So, all right, so we do need to clarify.
Also group these questions together.
Absolutely. I'm going to be doing some regrouping on some of this stuff. Let's see. Does my aircraft model need to have a remote identification transponder? Currently, no, it does not. However, the FAA will be looking at equipment requirements in the near future. Again, this may be something we want to throw a timeline on if there is one.
I look at it kind of like this, though. As a lawmaker, in your favor, you want it as broad as you can get, right? And then it's as a citizen, it's like we have to fight to have later to have sub things cut into the law, like 336. So where, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is there are a lot of spots where, we can, if we can, focus and get these people to listen to us, then we can have a say in how some of this stuff does roll out.
That's what I'm saying. That's bad.
All right, 21. Will I be required to get a Part 107 certification if I am a sponsored racer in events? Yes, any event or operation which you receive any kind of compensation, you are required to hold a Part 107 certification. If I wish to race and do not have sponsors or am not compensated in any way, do I still require a Part 107? No, you will not require a Part 107 certification. However, the event organizers may still require it to be able to fly. Partner with them to determine the requirements for any events you wish to attend and fly at.
That needs scrubbed.
The only thing I would recommend is back when you say yes. I don't know if I would say yes. I would just describe the conditions.
Okay.
And I'd remove racer and change it to pilot because, I mean, you might have freestyle pilots out there thinking that they don't need their 107 to fly freestyle if they're being compensated for.
Maybe we should call it a recreational event. It is a recreation.
It is.
I think we should, because just to blatantly throw it out there, it's recreational. We have to start still separating recreational.
Okay, so going back to question 21, will I be required to get a Part 107 certification if I am a sponsored pilot in a recreational event?
Well, if you're a sponsored pilot, then you're making some kind of compensation. So sponsored, according to this bill, will mean, yeah, you need a 107.
Right. I just wanted to check on the wording of the question and make sure, you know, it's clear, a little more clear now.
But does that actually apply to winnings? I mean,
not winnings.
Think about,
No,
like,
sponsored implies sponsored.
yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Take the S off of events.
Thank you. All right, now let's go back to question. Go ahead.
Then maybe we should. I'm wondering if we should separate. Maybe it's two questions. If I go to an event, win a prize, or if I'm a sponsored pilot, those are almost two separate things.
Correct.
So maybe they should be different questions because you have an event and I'm sponsored. Let's break that apart.
Just ask the question, the simpler question, are prize winnings compensation?
Yeah, so our event prize, something like that. I would unpack it a little further is what I'm getting at. Because when it's stacked together, it's because then I'm like, okay, what if I'm sponsored and I put my stuff on YouTube?
Exactly. And that's like everybody's dream is a recreational hobby.
Well, Chad, you brought up another good point is if you're over X amount of views and you monetize on YouTube, you're still, although it's extremely little at the beginning, you're still somewhat getting compensation for it. So that would almost put you into the same Part 107 category.
That's not flying. That's sitting on YouTube.
It's what?
That's being on YouTube. You're not flying, you're on YouTube.
No, but your flying is generating.
It's a question for
generating
enforcement, so it's not really like I don't really think it's been asked for. I've heard that question asked for the past 8 years, and the FAA and the FCC have always been like, nah, we don't care about that.
Yeah, but I think at this point where they're apparently cracking down on so much, I mean, if you're getting money from YouTube for putting up flying videos, you're making a source of revenue from your craft. So it's, I mean, there's critical compensation for your flying videos, regardless of what it is, you know.
In this case, I would honestly just wait for litigation to define it for us, and then we put it in the queue.
I was just going to say that.
Don't give them any.
You don't want to put something like this in writing. You want to wait for the courts to put it in writing.
God, man. I mean, we're all guilty. Almost everybody in this chat room is like, we're like.
Okay. All right. So just real quick, going back to 21, are we good with that one? Will I be required to get a Part 107 certification if I'm a sponsored pilot in a recreational event? Any event or operation which you receive any kind of compensation, you are required to hold a Part 107. Then I kind of did a 22A. Will I need a Part 107 certification in order to claim winnings as a pilot from a recreational event? Does that make more sense to you guys?
I'd
No,
almost,
that's a recreational. What are you winning? There's never a cash prize.
I'd separate recreational pilot and sponsored pilot completely.
Okay.
See, that's why I was saying that's a recreational event. You know what I mean? It's recreational. They don't. Not anyway.
I guess the key word that inspired the question was sponsored.
What's it matter if you're sponsored?
Because
If
you're
you're
receiving
paid to be
compensation.
there, if you're paid to be there, you're paid to be at the event and then be registered at the event. So you're already there registered. If you want
But
everybody to be the way AMA wants it, if you want everybody to be a commercial pilot to put goggles on your face, that's what that is.
I guess what I'm trying to get at here is I've seen event organizers who require like what 8 107s to be the spotters or like the person in charge or whatever so they can be conformed to 107 because they're so worried about it. But in reality, in the actual reality of the situation, most of the people that coming to these events and are flying are not commercial pilots. They don't need a 107, nor does the event organizer
Exactly, and
need to
they
give them
don't
one.
need, because here's the problem: the minute you have that license that you're registered as, you then fall under that tier of punitive and whatever situations. You know what I mean? And put it like you're a kid, you're a minor. You know what I mean? What's the point getting trial for an adult if you're just playing with minor toys?
So hey, we could roll all three of these into one even more simpler question. From the devil's advocate perspective, which really is us as a recreational FPV pilot, is from the recreational FPV pilot's perspective only. If I go to an event as a recreational pilot and I'm not being compensated, do I need a 107? No.
Give them anything about being sponsorships. Don't give them anything that leads them into any avenue into our heart.
Well,
Because
the
here's
whole
the problem: the
sponsor.
sponsorships, all these companies and these manufacturers work off with really, really small margins, except for like Fat Shark and shit.
No,
It's
but
like
look at it
bullet
this way.
beef.
If a sponsored pilot engages with a business relationship with any commercial entity, be it a manufacturer or whatever, as soon as that happens, as soon as that conversation begins, that's a commercial conversation and out of scope of recreational FPV. It doesn't matter to us.
Okay, so like FXT, I'm a sponsored FXT pilot. Okay, I got 9 sets of their goggles here. My sponsorship consists of me processing part Amazon returns, and I get financed through that. Okay, then I do the training videos, and then I do the release videos of their new products.
You're not
Am I,
flying.
but do I need a 107 to do that?
Nothing you just told me requires a 107.
And what's it? I'm still a sponsored pilot. The minute
But
now she
if that
compensates
business
me, then
expects you
all
to
my
do,
gear inside of all of my equipment is FXT, and I don't pay a dime.
or this where the rubber meets the road is when that business asks you to go to a recreational event and fly for them. That becomes commercial operations.
Of course, you fly for them. Their gear is in my everything that I own.
So that's when you would need the 107 because that's when it could legally be argued that you're operating commercial.
Into a commercial, okay, entity. Okay, I can get down with that.
But if you're not operating, if you're not flying for money and you're just like doing deals with whatever you're doing, then no, you don't need a 107.
If you,
Chad,
I,
you're in it deeper than me.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's the question of what's the sponsorship? Is it you just sponsoring the individual for the exposure, or are you sponsoring them to fly, or you're sponsoring their vlog?
See, that's where like we don't like it's out of scope for us, right? That's a commercial like subject. Like if the business and the pilot or somebody was standing in front of a judge, that would have nothing to do with recreational.
if you have a business contract with a company, even if it's you just putting something in the air, FPV or whatever, and you're getting compensation for it, that's a job.
Because there's all different types. Some of it you're actually working business partner. Like FXT, you're a working business partner. Tattoo, all they want is 3 videos a month. You know what I mean? I could just give them 3 videos. You know what I'm saying? It's
Well,
really weird.
Well, that brings me back to the YouTube thing. Is you're fulfilling your duty to that company for your compensation. Those videos are viewed as something that is it's
But it's
completing
still out of
the
scope.
circle.
The whole conversation is out of scope, right? To a body of recreational FPV pilots, like they're like, maybe imagine another body next to us that handles commercial operations, like they would argue those points in that advocacy. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, and the other piece is, I mean, you could have something like DRL where they're sponsored to fly, but DRL only flies inside, you know. So if that pilot flies outside on their own, are they flying commercially?
There's such
That's
a
what I'm
gray
saying.
area with this.
If you're not freaking delivering packages, and you know we know who we are. If it says FPV in our name, it's recreation. You know that's personally me. Period. That's the way that my American tail wants to look at it. Now, am I
Well,
going
and
to get it that way? Probably not.
There's
that's where
thousands of recreation or commercial uses. I mean, there's thousands of them, and the
Agricultural
FAA is monitoring it all.
dusting, you need it, yeah, especially agricultural, and you might as well go ahead and get one of them hazmat licenses too, and go. You know, what I mean, in my care, you aerially be able to dispatch toxins into the air into a jet stream. Hell, you know what I mean. This scares me, and they're worried about us. You know.
I think that's a little off topic, but the quick answer is that if you're flying for the furtherance of a business, nonprofit, or commercial, then you need a Part 107. So even if you're flying,
So that means
making
that,
videos just for the Freedom Coalition, you would need your Part 107.
Bam.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if there's
Why would you submit yourself like that? Why? I'm just saying, just why give it up?
Well, here's the deal, guys. Let's get back on point. So I pulled out all those questions. I went back. If I'm a recreational FPV pilot attending an event, do I need a Part 107? No. If you're flying recreationally and not being compensated, you will not require a Part 107 certificate. And stop right there.
That's it. See, we don't need to put the idea in anybody's head. We can just
Exactly.
answer the
There you go.
question.
So real quick, and I hope this isn't convoluting it, but there could be a waiver. So do you want to just put that exception in there, because that does happen and could
Pending
happen.
exceptions.
Did I lose everybody?
No, can we put a note in there to revisit this at a later date and actually get, because it seems like it's kind of a gray area, especially if there's multiple people just in this one chat that have different ideas about it. That shows something that kind of should be addressed. I know for one, I don't want to be case law.
I hear you, because man, that's a touchy one. That's where you want to get like lots of conversations before you.
Okay, so Chad, what were you saying real quick about the waiver?
I was just saying it's possible to get a waiver, but I don't. So, for instance, there can be the event organizer can have the 107, and then everyone at the event won't
Flies
need it
underneath
if they get a
them.
waiver.
Right.
Yeah, for the 2015 drone nationals, the FAA was actually there. They had 2 personnel on the ground, and it was completely exempt, like the whole thing. They basically have discretion to give waivers and make exemptions wherever they please.
All right, I'm just throwing a couple notes in here that I can look at, revisit, and throw off to the regulations team here. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, will my model aircraft be subject to airworthiness inspection or need to conform to any safety standards?
Should we use the word drone?
Here's the deal, and this is one thing I tried to steer away from, is using UAV, SUAV, drone. I tried to just keep it model aircraft because there's no distinguishing factor within the regulations between a drone and a fixed wing and a helicopter or anything else that flies in the air. So I tried to keep it to model aircraft.
I like that. It doesn't use the D word, which everybody cringes at.
I don't know
What's the
why.
official term the bill uses?
It's model aircraft.
There you go.
So that's why I kind of stuck with that. So if you're building your model aircraft as a hobbyist, then no, you will not need to submit any to any airworthiness inspections. Commercial manufacturers will most likely be able to self-certify their own model aircraft by a list of standards published by the FAA.
That last sentence, I'll admit, we kind of snuck in as fluff for manufacturers in the industry to inform them, just in case they don't know.
I'm just saying this don't, that might be another one where you're laying yourself out for another beating.
It's actually already in the bill.
Let's
This
get
is
it
all-
taken out.
What were you saying, Sean?
Yeah, this is all in the bill already, but also FAA regulations for other airspace users do include very strict airworthiness inspections of their aircrafts, and we don't want to go down that road or like even really suggest it.
Correct. And I think the language in the bill, basically, if you're a manufacturer, you're required to submit the instruction manual, the maintenance and care manual, and upon request, the actual a single copy of the actual model to be certified. But they are looking at ways to have manufacturers be able to self-certify based on regulations. But again, those standards aren't published yet. I don't know if we want to throw a date in there or if we're okay with the way it is right now. 50 says, I'm curious, have any manufacturers released any statements on the bill? I haven't seen anything. Has anybody else?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
They're probably waiting on this document.
All right. Let's see. Is there a speed limit at which I can fly my model aircraft? Currently, there is no speed limit proposed by the regulations. However, there is a provision for the FAA to review safety standards, including speed. So I know there was some confusion on this one when we were creating it. Currently, the standing rule comes from the AMA, and they limited any autonomous vehicle to a speed limit of 100 miles an hour.
I do it daily, exceeding that, and I have no problem with control.
I understand that. I'm sure a lot of us don't. But I do know that that's where a lot of the confusion came in before, that the AMA did set that as one of their safety guidelines.
You're telling us that you're taking our spec wings away.
All right. Will a member of a CBO grant me access? Will being a member of a CBO grant me access to special exemptions to the regulations? Answer: currently, there are no special exemptions from the regulations for being a member of a CBO. I know there's talk out there of the AMA trying to carve out some special exemptions for themselves. I don't know how that's going. I just know that there's talk of it. It's on the forums and whatnot. So. Next question. What is a community-based organization? To be honest, I'm not going to read all of that. It's it's taken directly out of the bill. It's basically 501c3 and furthering the model aviation and a couple other things there. But there's no really interpretation of that. It's directly out of the bill.
They need to be sanctioned, or you're going to have 4,000 of
them. Next question, we go into what is the process for official approval to be a CBO and who makes the determination? Currently, there is no definitive process for applying to become a CBO. The FAA will publish this process within the next 6 months, through which any organization meeting the above criteria can apply for recognition. There is no information about who will make the determination. However, the thought is that someone or some committee within the FAA will be reviewing the applications.
One thing I don't see.
That's kind of non-American. That's not very freedomish.
One thing I don't see is how does these what is the purpose of the CBO to us? Like how does it benefit us, or why do we care what it is?
Okay.
It gives them a place to go. For them, it gives them a place to go when they need to find somebody or something like that. And for the community, it gives them a place to go when they need to get their registrations or taught to fly or anything like that. I don't know. Depending on where you're from, there may not be any. You know, there's a lot of guys in North Dakota and stuff, Idaho, whatever. Man, them two are the only people in the state. You know, so it's kind of jacked up.
Isn't like the AMAs? Don't they provide the insurance at events like the IO and other type, larger events? So
A
I mean, I guess
community-based
that would be.
organization is like an advisory group, or like it's like the self-policing of the community, or it's basic. You know what they do, what the government likes to do is identify groups like this or levels like this, CBO level groups, to offload their work so they don't have to do it, right? So the FAA like has all these questions as well, right, about how do I regulate these FPV guys? I don't know what the hell, right? So then here comes a CBO like, hey, we know we can help, right? So they go, okay, here, just do all that, and we'll take a look at it and make sure it's good and approve it later, because we don't have time to do all the work. So
Well,
we're kind of like their stewards.
Yeah, to be fair though, I don't think it's just offloading work. I mean, when I sat down, with the 6 members of the FAA in Cleveland, it was more, you're the expert, we're not. And they don't know how the equipment works like we do. So there's also a knowledge barrier as
We're
well.
the subject matter experts,
And that's where I was talking.
basically, and they know that, or they're learning that. And then we bring that expertise to the safety of the national airspace for them.
Right. And on the flip side, guys, if you go back to question 26, where, I skimmed over kind of what is a community-based organization, one of the big things there is creating safety guidelines. And not only that, but the protection and safety of individuals and property on the ground. It's also providing programming for other members of the organization, be it education, like we're trying to, kind of do here, or support, and developing flying sites and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that a CBO is good for, but I honestly think, yeah, you're right. The CBO is going to be those subject matter experts that the FAA are going to come to for, advice, to be honest, above anything.
So do I have this wrong in my head, this picture of what we have here? This is the FPV coalition, correct?
Correct.
We speak for only the interest of the people who wear goggles on their heads or look at little screens on tripods. The other guys that are flying the planes, line of sight, they need to have their own AMA thing. Is that what's going on, or whatever? Or
well, the AMA currently covers everything from Huck gliders to control line to gliders to slope to every kind of line of sight, turbines, $10,000. So there's a very large organization that's spread over much wider subject matter, and like their constituents are all of these different kinds of things, whereas we're very focused on just the FPV pilots.
Okay. And do you think that we're going to be able to get FPV branched off of the recreation?
We are within the recreational regulations.
So we'll have our own coalition that doesn't involve that of the AMAs or the other whatever CBOs, whatever.
Yeah, there'll be other CBOs for any other stakeholder in this subject. Yes.
So the
How
AMA
do we
is a
know
CBO. So the AMA is a CBO then?
Oh,
not
clearly.
No.
Well,
okay.
No, they're gonna be. I mean, there's probably
Obviously,
50,000 people who
Well,
fly
it depends on who you're asking.
Exactly. Now, the people who got the raw end of the deal, who have to deal with stuff like this, distinguishing what is or isn't commercial, you know what I mean, because you wear goggles. We have a different belief on how than people think. You know what I mean? But I'm one of both people. You know what I mean? That's what's nice about me sitting here is I am one of both. You know what I mean?
Most of us are, yes. But what
Yeah.
what we have here,
I'm
though,
just saying.
is the distinction of FPV, which hasn't necessarily been called out in the regs or applied with our expertise yet.
Yeah.
What does the AMA file under? Do they file under a 501c3 or a 501c6?
They are filed under 501c3. They actually have two. One's for the main organization, the other one's for the foundation, which I believe encompasses their flight museum as well. But yeah, they're categorized as a 501c3.
So at any moment they could choose to, okay, we're going to be a CBO to represent this large group of people, but then we'd still have our, you know, our expertise in this one niche area.
It doesn't need to be a stepchild. You know what I'm saying? You might.
No, it's not about being a stepchild. It's
We're up
about
here.
standing side by side and saying, you know, that's fantastic that you're representing all of this, but we're going to be the subject matter experts on FPV. This is what we're good at. This is what we're going to represent.
Okay. Chad, what were you saying, bud?
I was just going to say, I think if you ask the AMA, I think they consider themselves community-based organization.
Of everything, yeah. If you talk to certain people, and it depends on what people you talk to within up and down that.
Is there any way we can reach out and find out for sure? Like, I mean, because if they are a community-based organization, then there is a community-based organization that has a stake in this bill, and that'll change a lot of the rules because then we just have.
They made a public statement. No, they made a public statement already, basically confirming that they look forward to becoming a CBO.
Okay.
The only way you're going to get certainty is if the AMA publishes something acknowledging that they are, which they're not doing right now, or there's litigation of some sort that forces it to be defined.
That's what kind of threw me off earlier when I heard that there were no CBOs representing us before that, because I always thought the AMA was the CBO that was representing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes this group here seem a little presumptuous, because in the end they're the ones that have the insurance. That they are the. You have to go in to go. It was like you're going up to dad to go get it. You know, it's like nothing's going to change. The only thing that could change is you still got to pay for the AMA insurance for the year, and that's still a gray area for me. But still, yet the other side, you're still sanctioned FPV when you pick up FPV gear. The minute you put on FPV gear, you follow under us.
So it just, and I don't know if this brings more clarity or not, but the vibe that I'm getting, and I'm saying vibe because it's not super clear, for some reason the FAA over the years has not wanted, or I shouldn't say what they want, they have not acknowledged them as the CBO. My guess is because they don't want a monopoly on it. I don't know. I think maybe
you can't dictate something like that. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be a free country.
Yeah, so I don't know, but there is definitely an oddity because the AMA does essentially check all the boxes for the criteria of a CBO. The only thing they're missing is
before this, that list came out.
Wait, say that again.
That list that defines what a CBO is. But previously the question was, what is a CBO? We've been asking that for the past 7 years. But what we have now is a list of what that exactly is, right? And so that is what's changed. And so now that they may not live up to that list, or they've never been approved, or for whatever reason, the environment is simply a new world from then.
And it's like the setup is going to roll down like this. It'd be a Trump FAA AMA FPV coalition. It's like we're going to be a subgroup to AMA.
No, we won't. We will be a peer. We'll be a recognized CBO alongside the AMA and possibly other commercial interests at tables like the ARC or other drone advisory groups that create the future regulations.
Okay, so hang on. Can I jump in real quick? One of the big discussions on the forums is that what is a community-based organization from the bill is basically tailor-made to fit the FAA. So I would have no doubt that this little chunk of, what an AMA or what a CBO is was something that an AMA, advisor told the FPV to put it in there.
And then laid the seed right there.
Right. But on the flip side, they're also, by doing that, they're opening it up to other people and other organizations. So while they are trying to be, I'm sure that the AMA is trying to be exclusive. At the same time, it is kind of a monopoly, but they've paved the path for others to jump in. So there's going to be other organizations like ours, or like the Drone User Group, or a couple other places out there that's what I'm saying. The Drone User Group, Doug, that are going to jump in on this, and they're going to say, "Hey, wait a second, what about us?" And
this is why they wanted to declare the FPV as commercial. It's easier.
Right, but I mean, the big issue is that we're one of the very specialized group of users of aircraft where we can be considered recreational, or we can be considered commercial, but we fit the bill on both, but it's how you're flying and what you're doing that's the difference.
Here's why I say we can't do it without being on the leg of AMA and being alone. I will say I fly it every day, long range, whatever, I'll admit it. You know what I'm saying? The risk is in FPV long range, and FPV, these guys are not, the risk is much higher, I believe, in needing the insurance and having a flyaway or whatever, a non-return to home or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And then AMA's already set up for the insurance. It's already kind of done. We would have to have a complete strong insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Great idea.
You're going to have to play into both. And if you want to play FPV, you need to play by him. Then when you're paying him and playing by him, then you're going to come over here, pay here, and play by here as well. It's another turnoff. It's like it has to be one or the other. You know what I mean?
Well, even we talked about last week, I believe was during the meeting, the guy that was at an AMA sanctioned event, and he lost control, put his quad through a windshield, and they didn't cover it. They were like, "Yeah, good luck. Just, call your insurance."
Yeah, because AMA falls behind your insurance. Your homeowner's insurance goes first. They whatever they don't cover. Right. So and that's kind of the thing, but that's not the way that the government's looking at it. You know what I mean? The government says these FPV guys right now under the AMA, that thing is insured for blah 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 blah. Right now, FPV Coalition can't say that we do anything.
Understandable, but on the flip side, we're still building.
I'm just saying that is something that's an issue. And
right.
so
I get that.
And you're going to put these things up there. Either we're going to either fall to underneath Big Papa called AMA, or we got some serious soul searching to do quickly.
Well,
that's what we're doing.
Absolutely, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty much so. Basically, we're just doing this as a breakout group away from the AMA on our own to represent our own, because we're a niche group where we're like the infant on the
and
block.
I wouldn't say we're a breakout group, because this group is made up of AMA members and non-AMA members. So it's just it's totally new and fresh.
And here's the
breakout as far as like representing the entire community, not just
correct. And that's I think something that strengthens us, because our focus is narrower. We can be stronger advocates for what it is.
I agree.
Also, there's no reason we can't have overlapping rules with the AMA. It's just what rules you're following, and it doesn't really matter.
Right. As long as you're following the rules of a CBO. The other thing I would say is that, we're not the new guys on the block. They literally carved out an entire section of an authorization bill to cover us because of us. And the emerging technology behind multi-rotors and flying FPV and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, obviously we're on their mind, and so obviously it's not a niche group anymore, guys. I mean, it's really not.
So
I've kind of
when
trolled them over the
when
years.
I-
I've written it in there in like the commercial group, like, hey, invite us to the table, and invite us to, here's pirates down here. Like we wouldn't mind, letting you know how we do it, to the AMA and to the FA. We've been putting it in their ear, and then here is our clear invitation. Here's our response finally.
Right.
Put it to you like this: have any of you guys been invited to go listen to like right now to an AMA meeting?
No, the AMA doesn't do this. We're trying to reach the
That-
FA,
that's
the
what
regulators.
that's
right?
what I'm saying. But what we're doing right here, you would never get done underneath a jurisdictional background like they have, where they're all lawyers. You know what I'm
Which
saying?
brings up
They
another one of
make
our
your
greatest strengths.
decisions for you. Where this is this door is open as far as I know. I think anybody can join if they feel like it. You know what I mean? This is what it's supposed to be, guys.
And I kind of want to reiterate like what I meant as far as like the in the infancy, or like the new guys on the block. Like, I mean, as far as RC model flight, we are like, there is
Right.
nothing newer than what we're doing, and that's why we have to catch this by the fucking balls, and we have to get in there, and we have to be like, no, this is how it actually is. This is us representing us, and we'll show you exactly how it is. You can't let somebody that represents, I mean, there's probably 40 or 50 different kinds of, I mean, look at like model rocket, or like model model rocketry, stuff like that. I'm sure they have their own representatives that are outside of the AMA, which I think, I mean, that all falls under the AMA, I believe. And that stuff, some of that stuff is terrifying, and they let you fire it off in your backyard.
I saw events recently posted, because this time of year they do pumpkin chucking, I guess is a thing now.
Right.
And they're launching pumpkins like 500 feet in the air, and I'm just like, hey, did you guys get clearance for that? Because you don't allow drones in your park, just letting you know.
That's over.
All right, guys. All
That's
right.
something good to argue against.
All right, let's wrap it up. So, okay, so we don't know. I'm gonna go back to where we're at. We've kind of hashed that out. So process for approval, there isn't a process yet, but in the next 6 months there will be a process, hopefully. Okay, is the AMA the only current CBO? We kind of hashed that out just now. Not officially recognized as a CBO yet. They must go through the same process as everyone else to earn that distinction. That right now is fact, but I'm sure they are eagerly pursuing that. Can I be under the influence of drugs and or alcohol and still fly legally? There's no mention in the regulations of drug and alcohol and flying a model aircraft.
Do we have to put that in there?
That was yeah, but that's under the AMA guidelines, which are like the first and foremost at this point, I believe.
We have to remind ourselves the
that's-
purpose of the document is to cover all the questions that our constituents may have. Will
Let
they
them
have
worry
these
about
questions?
that.
I think that they will have this question. There's a large majority of
Okay.
our community that will have this question.
Have
Okay,
you
right
met
on.
Trappy? Okay, moving on. Does this authorization give the FAA power to permanently regulate model aircraft, or will it need to be renewed or reauthorized at a later date? Answer: this authorization will have a 5-year lifespan, after which Congress will have to go through the process again.
They worded that differently in the bill.
How so?
Paige?
I'd have to go back and find the page. I just woke up. I'm sick as hell, as you can tell. But they worded it that they can, and they plan on changing bills and wording of the, or not changing bills, but changing wording of the bill as they see fit, which I
Right.
spoke about last week with going, they have to obey the ADA, and it has to go to the people, so it has to be voted on and things like that. I mean,
But that is something that's carving out the provisions for certain authorizations that are currently in there. But actually, the lifespan of the entire bill is only 5 years. So they can carve out what's currently in the bill, what there's provisions for, like certain committees and safety and speed and and all those different things, or like, recognition of a CBO. They can change all that stuff through the 5-year period, but after that 5-year period, we're going to get another reauthorization.
Okay, right on.
That's what this one's addressing.
All right, I misunderstood
Nope, you're fine.
the wording of it.
Chad,
Honestly,
are you committed to your lifetime of running this thing? Chad done pulled over and fell asleep.
Well, legally, it has to have a board with a rotating leadership, I think.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry, guys.
Let's see. That brings up a good question, though, about them being able to change language and whatnot as they see fit. I will address that.
That's a big one. That's not in there yet, huh?
No, it's not in there, and I thought about it, and I completely skimmed over it in my speed to get everything else done. So that's my fault.
No.
Well, I
it's
feel
not your
like that
fault.
was.
That's why we're doing this right now.
I feel like that was one of the things that they also neglected to think about when they wrote the bill, where it was so rushed. Is that I mean, with the ADA, it has to go to the people. The people have to have knowledge of it. I mean, there's so much more to it. The FAA put it out there, and they said we will make changes as we see fit with no prior notice.
See, now that's
you
where
cannot do that.
No, you can't tell them that they can't, because ultimately they probably can.
No, there's an amendment that you cannot do that.
Yeah, well, they called that interpretation last time, right? It's all good. I'll shut up on this one.
No, it's an important question, and it might take a lot of input from our professional guys. So we'll get an answer.
Absolutely. All right, last one. Will a recreational pilot's license be required to purchase a ready-to-fly fixed-wing or rotorcraft from major retailers? No, at this time, it's not a requirement. It will be the responsibility of the pilot to obtain certification before commencing flight for the first time without a certified pilot with you.
So our manufacturers are not going to have to get certifications, huh? Bitching.
All right, so Sparky Josh brought up a good one. I don't know if you all saw it in the chat. Would it be possible to add if buildings and structures can change AGL? Yes, I will add that, and the answer to that question would be no, it does not. There's no provision for that. They are calling ground level at the dirt. So, but I will add that in. Couple things. I just want to go over some of the additions or some of the notes. We'll talk. I will get something in there for the FAA to create rules and regulations as technology changes, which we just talked about. Benefits of joining a CBO. Do we want to hit the ham license question?
Would that not fall under the pilot's license? Weren't the two tied together at one point years ago or something?
That's not the FAA anyway, so I don't know.
No, it's not the FAA.
Really...
So if we want to keep it just a strict on the bill kind of thing, then I will delete that.
Well, yeah, it's pretty clear they don't even have one, so don't even bring that up.
Okay.
We have a pretty narrow, concise focus of the document already. We should retain it and keep that.
Absolutely. Okay, so a couple of general notes: identify timelines, identify test timeline. What do I do when approached by law enforcement? I will kind of hash that out a little further, and I'm scrapping these questions down below, so they're getting deleted. Anything else you guys can think of question-wise that needs to be in this document?
What did we miss? What is the FPV pilots out there asking right now? What have you seen?
How do we explain this to the public if they have knowledge of the bill? Let's say my neighbor says, hey, I saw there was a bill and you can't fly anymore. How do you address that? A proper way as a representative of the CBO.
I like that.
Maybe I think that's. Hold on, let me formulate my thought. There have been a lot of rules, guidelines, laws, I don't know, safety standards changed along the way, like implemented and changed. And I think that's why most people are confused, because they may have heard something a year ago or 2 years ago, and they're still operating off or thinking that's the case. Is there something that we can? How do I know what the current state of things are? Something like that.
Okay,
Well,
so
the
maybe, provide some resources like websites, that kind of thing. Is that kind of where you're going, Chad?
No, I'm thinking
Maybe,
like a
yeah.
high level summary of what is the purpose of this. What is this bill doing at like one sentence? Like, and I think what it's doing is it's changing the current regulations, making things more clear, opening things up for commercial, allowing for CBO type engagements. It's you know what it is? It's house cleaning. It's like cleaning up the mess that was made from the previous bullshit.
Well, it's like as far as right now or previous to this bill, you could just throw a spare pair of goggles on them and show them. And now I feel like people that don't fly RC or anything like that, for the most part, if they see you flying, they're not going to want to put on a pair of goggles and hang out with you. They're coming at you like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? I heard it was illegal." I've already got this.
Well, they're your spotter now. Just tell them you can't leave. You're my spotter.
That's a
awesome.
good point.
All right, so high level overview of what the bill actually is, and how do I know what the state of regulations is currently? Those are a couple more things we need to address.
Yeah, I didn't say that like as something that we need for like right now tonight, but I
Right.
I wonder if the
like,
spotter is
work on-
going to need a spotter license.
Currently, as it stands, no.
I'd leave that out completely. No, well, the same as I was talking about the ham license last weekend or last Wednesday. We brought it up, and my thing is like, if anything's not in the bill right now, don't put it in their head that that's something else that they have to include, because then it's just going to be a nightmare. And that's kind of like a spotter license. Yeah, do you have eyes? Yes. Okay, sign here. Cool. I'm good with that.
All right, so if you guys think of anything, please feel free to message me. I'm usually on. I don't sleep a whole lot, so I can probably respond pretty quickly. But I'm more than happy for suggestions or edits or anything like that. I am going to leave this open. I'm going to continue to edit this, guys, and I'm going to leave it open to comments. I don't want to leave it open to edit everybody because I don't want it to get so convoluted that we can't see straight. So if you do have something, you can DM me. You can drop a comment in the document here, and we'll kind of take it from there, and we'll post a revised version as soon as I can get that done. Couple other things that I wanted to talk about. I do know that 507 has been making some great progress on the website. There's still a little bit to do in regards to kind of fluffing it out, but it's coming together nicely. This is actually going to be one of the things that we drop in there. But I did post yesterday, I believe. Yeah. A need for photos of the community, of builds, of just enjoying the hobby. Anything that you guys can provide that we can drop onto the website that we can use for Facebook posts. Anything that you think would be an awesome shot for us to use, please drop that in the box, and I'll post it here again in a second. That way we've got kind of a library of images that we can use.
Hey, quick thing with this, with the document you just went over, and going back to, I think, educating the public kind of thing. Is there any thought to making a small little printout people carry with them, just so they know their rights? Because for people that come up to them and, hey, I heard this bill says such and such, or even police officers that may not understand their role in it either.
That's
could just
that's
point
definitely
them towards that.
something we can put that on the suggestion list. And I mean, I'm all for that. Just, you know, almost something the size of a channel sheet card that comes with the VTXs and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd call it down pilot's card, just because I used to produce those back in Desert Shield, Desert Storm for pilots that were shot down over Iraq. It was something they could use to speak with the locals.
So
Absolutely.
basically, like a cheat sheet. We carry these right now doing electric skateboarding rides because the rangers pull us over and get us for speeding or whatever else, and we pull out the bill. California state bill says electric skateboards are not considered skateboards, so no skateboarding laws are so like we just get away with it everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, we can definitely produce something like that. That's easily done.
I just put it in our little core group in the pathfinding party for a task that another document that we can start working on.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, I want to thank Josh and Sean for getting this set up and moving it forward and conducting a great meeting. Also, another note that I wanted to put out about Rampage was I had a lot of people ask me about the FPV Freedom Coalition, so
That's
I thought
awesome.
it was pretty great that I was actually surprised at how many people knew about it.
That's awesome.
That was good.
Word's getting out. That's a good deal.
Did you get any kind of feedback you can share?
No, I mean it wasn't. It was mostly them asking me, which it was tough because I wasn't completely versed on everything because that 1,200-page document came out right before Rampage, and so most of it was asking, when we were going to be up and going full speed, what things meant, and I had just referred them to the site and said we're going to constantly be improving and updating.
You're going to have to sketch out a structure at some point, I think.
It's a lot of that's actually been done. So
Is
we
it?
have some people working in the background. That little core team that we introduced during the last meeting, they've developed stuff long into the future that like we can't implement yet, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's tough because we're not legal yet, and until we become legally incorporated or structured, it's just we have to be informal about it.
Look at that.
If you want to help, like if anybody wants to help and dive in, like just let us know what kind of skills you got.
None.
Time.
You guys got my my application I put in like a month and a half ago.
All right, Sean, you got anything you need to cover, sir?
No, you got it all.
All right, Chad?
Nope,
Thanks.
I'm good. Thank you, guys.
50, you got anything, bud?
Nope, I'm good. We just have to finish up that website with a few new paragraphs and have Chad take a look at it and get that moving.
All right. Dennis, you got anything, sir? All right. FPV FC, you got anything?
Our account recording this.
Mad, you got anything? All right. Old Gravy Leg?
Negative.
Sparky?
Good talk, guys. Let me know if I can do anything to help.
Absolutely, sir. Steve?
Nope, all good. Thank you.
All right. And Thrust, any parting words for
All
us, sir?
good, man.
All right. Thank you all, guys. I appreciate the feedback. It's been amazing. So let's just keep. I want to keep doing the meetings. I know Sean wants to keep doing the meetings. It's awesome for us to be able to kind of get together and hash some of this stuff out. So if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to me or Sean or Chad or Stymie 50. We're all here to help you guys out and to listen to what you got to say. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up.
And the music.
Rad, guys.
Cue
Like
the
fucking
end of the
podcast.
meeting.
We make videos for a living, y'all.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.